Welcome to the Waffle Shop podcast with me, Taylor James. This is the podcast to get you waffling about your mental health, coping mechanisms, life's minor inconveniences, and the music that soundtracks the journey. So join me each week as I open up shop and have a waffle. Welcome to the Waffle Shop podcast. Today I'm joined by an absolute legend. She's a singer, songwriter, podcaster, author now, chef, mom extraordinaire, all-round legend. It's Sophie Ellis-Bextor. Welcome to the Waffle Shop.
Thank you for having me. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm good, actually. Yeah, feel fairly upbeat today. I've got a nice little to-do list and I'm going to get through it. That's my attitude today.
I like that. So it's positive Monday morning. What more could we wish for? Now, to be fair, speaking of Monday mornings, and forgive me because there was an awful joke coming, but I thought I've got to do it. But I start each one of my shows with something called the weekly waffle, and it's something that it's quite petty, but it gets on my nerves. But in the hope that if I get it off my chest, I'll feel better in the long run. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we've got to try. But the thing that's really getting on my go already this week is housework. It just seems to be, I seem to be doing this thing at the moment where like I'll tidy one room, but then I'll move all the kind of stuff that I'm supposed to be tidying into another room.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of this like constant back and forth that I keep doing.
Yeah.
It never ends.
And actually that was my pet peeve as well, was a houseworky type thing, because I feel like the thing about tidying up and sorting and organizing is no one congratulates you for it anyway. It's just a constant battle, isn't it?
It's like decorating. It's like you do one room, like you get it all decorated, like, yeah, this is nice. Then you look at another room, you're like, well, now I don't like this room.
Although I quite like that. I quite like decorating. I see that doesn't wind me up in the same way, because I think houses don't stand still, do they? So for me, having more projects and more places to paint or put wallpaper up or move furniture around, I quite like all that. I don't think I'll ever feel done.
No, it's life.
Yes, exactly.
One of the questions I did have to ask, and sorry about this, but I have to do it. When it comes to like the tidying up and like the housework, do you ever get that moment just like, I want to burn this goddamn house right down?
That is a bad joke.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I had to do it.
The reassuring thing about the fact, because I collect a lot of absolute rubbish like tats, the good news is if the house does burn down, it's probably all worthless anyway.
So if anything, you're doing yourself a favor if that was to ever happen.
I mean, I would miss things, but ultimately I do know there's nothing of value here.
It's a positive Monday morning conversation.
Well, I'm kind of at peace with that. It's easier than having lots of valuable things lying around.
That's very true. Very true. With this, I don't even know where to begin with this waffle, because I'm going to have to start with the music. Like, you have produced some of the most iconic pop songs that have literally soundtracked some very, very good times for me.
Hey, thank you.
You know, Murder on the Dance Floor, Groove Jet, you know, even the new single Hypnotized. It's like, do you know, like, have you had those moments when you're sitting down, you're writing these songs, you're a part of whatever's going on, and to be like, this is about it? Like, have you ever had that kind of like, this is going to be, or are you surprised when it kind of?
It's sort of like the answer lies somewhere in the middle, actually, because I don't think you can, or you should even make pop and dance music if it doesn't give you that feeling. Like, what's the point? If you're like, oh, I kind of quite like it, like, what's the point? So all the stuff I get up to, like, if I'm not dancing around the studio by the end of recording, then something's gone a bit wrong. So I think you've got to have that feeling, but it's not to do with whether or not it's a hit, because I'm experienced enough to know that, luckily, and I've always really found this comforting, there isn't like a magic equation that means if you do this, that, and the other, it's always going to work. And I like that. I like that feeling of like, well, I love this song, but what's going to happen with it when it's released? But I think in terms of like getting excited, I think you've got to do that. If that's not happening, then you should keep working at it. It's not right yet.
Oh no, I love it. And it is true though, because it's these kind of songs that make you feel something. They're the ones that kind of, it's like the instant hit of serotonin sometimes that
Yeah.
you need to get you through the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what pop music, in its purest form, that's what's so clever about it, is it can really, pep your mood. It's quite an incredible thing, really, isn't it? How music can do that.
It literally, some of the like the darkest days, and all it'll take was one of those one songs, and I'm like, I'm going to be okay. Because I do this really weird thing with music where it's like, whether it's like a big pop song or whether it's like one of the most heart-wrenching kind of ballads, it makes me feel like I'm not on my own, because there's someone out there kind of going through that, and obviously they're pouring that into like art.
But I think that's what music should do. It's like a way of connecting with people. And when you're going through stuff, like I remember the first time I, experienced like heartache, and it was like every song was about that. And I was like, oh, wow, all these songs are speaking to me now. I get it. I think that's what music, and without sounding too, highfalutin, I think that's kind of what art is about, really. It's about the human condition, and about saying, I feel like this. What do you feel when you hear that, hear this? Does it resonate with you in the same way? That's kind of what we're doing, isn't it?
Would you say that heartbreak made you a dancer? Sorry, these are coming.
Definitely can. It definitely can. I do think that in genuine way, I think that, music is an amazing tonic. So yes, I think when you're feeling low, it can really shift your perspective. Yes. But actually that song says heartbreak make me a dancer. You'll say,
oh, sorry.
Please, can I find that in myself? I need to elevate myself. Yes. Just to get the tense correct.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was off to a strong start. There's one song in particular that I do want to have a bit of a waffle about, and it is Murder on the Dance Floor, because when you hear it like that title, you're like, what the hell does that even mean? But then you listen to it and it's just like everything just makes sense. It's just like, I'm okay with this. But like, how did that even become a thing? Like,
well, so the origins of that song. So I finished the song off with it, but actually it's already had its bones there with this guy, amazing songwriter called Greg Alexander, who I ended up becoming friends with and working with quite a lot, actually. And he wrote the first sort of version of it when he was trying to go out to a club, and his car wouldn't start, and he just ended up sort of sat in his broken down car in his driveway with his acoustic guitar, and he was just kind of annoyed that he didn't get to go out clubbing. So he wrote it. And then when it came to me, it was kind of like, that was the first idea was already there. So the Murder on the Dance Floor lyric had been there from the very beginning, from when it was a baby. And I always thought it sounded like, as you say, it's kind of quite odd sounding, but also I think for me, he had half of it was about his frustration, but also I think it's about that bit in a nightclub where everything's really kicking off and you're like just having like that the best moment, when you're like, oh my God, this is it. Like I'm having such a good time, and you kind of recognize it at the moment. That's for me what I always thought of when I was performing it. I thought of that kind of encapsulating that little episode.
It must be like one of the best feelings in the world, like being on that stage and hearing like people like sometimes scream these lyrics back at you. Do you ever get that on stage? You're like, wow, like you've made an impact.
I think, look, I've been singing Murder for actually nearly 20 years now. So I think the thing I've always loved about songs is that you sort of put them out into the world, and then they have their little adventures. It's like when you said, some of my music has soundtracked some of the moments in your life. Like that's lovely. Like that, the idea of songs having this little journey without you is really lovely. And I just think I'm very fortunate, because I know that there are a lot of singers out there where they've got songs that they're really known for, and they don't have a very easy relationship with those songs.
Yeah.
But for me, I really still genuinely love singing my singles. Like I'm really on very good terms with all my songs, and I've never once been bored of it. There's never been a time when I've sung it on stage and thought, oh God, this one. I actually feel like it's such a gift. And people seem genuinely, they seem to have real affection, particularly for Murder, actually. Which is funny because I think it's almost become more recently. It's almost like had its like a little extra burst of life. It's quite
Yeah.
interesting watching that happen.
Is it weird, like, like with the whole kind of like TikTok generation now with music? Because
Hmm.
obviously you see like these artists that they'll get their songs, but sometimes it's either slowed down or it's like sped up.
Hmm.
And is it weird kind of going from like CDs to streaming to now quite a lot of the music that people find is from TikTok, which I'm not, is it, was that
It
a
doesn't
weird
really
kind
bother
of,
me.
love
Not
that.
really. I mean, I think particularly the jump between CDs and record shops and streaming for me has been look, before I'm a music artist, I'm a music fan. So for me, the more ways you can access music, I think that's all good.
Yeah.
And I, obviously I've got some fond memories of being a teenager and going to the record shop and like couldn't wait to get my hands on the new album, whatever. But actually doing it from my own home is way easier.
Yeah.
And I think probably I think it's in general, it can make people a bit bolder because you haven't got to make that public commitment, of going out if you can't see it on the shelf, asking for it. You could listen, hear a song on the radio in the morning and think, oh my God, that person's voice is really intriguing. And by lunchtime, you've heard, you know, two of their previous albums. And, I just think actually getting access to music easier is brilliant. And for my kids, the fact that they hear songs and I'll be like, well, how do you know that chorus or that song? And I'll be like, oh, it's on a TikTok or something. Like, I think that's all good. I don't have any. I think it's just all. I'm ultimately I'm a music fan, so
Yeah.
the easier and the more it surrounds me, the better. I'm happy with that. Really, yeah,
I
feel good.
love that. Is it because I imagine like we would kind of say at the start, like about like the noise and stuff like in your house. I imagine
Mhm.
like throughout lockdown, like you kept us all kind of entertained. Like I've never been more jealous to not be in someone's house. It was literally like brilliant. Like,
But
was
you were
that
in my house. If you came to a
that's
disco,
true.
you were in my house.
That's true. um well, how was that? Did that just randomly start? Because I mean, obviously you're very, very creative family. So I imagine, did you need that kind of like outlet?
God, yeah. I think I mean everything that we had for the discos was already in our home.
Yeah.
The disco ball and the laser lights and bunting and all of that. It was already there because we like playing music and jumping around when we need to. But yeah, it is a creative house, and it is generally. I'm going to say it's noisy. It's not really right now because all my kids are at school. But uh, yeah, there's always a lot going on. But I think that's the joy of like big family life, and obviously sometimes it can be quite overwhelming. But I think that's what family life is often about, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Does it ever get to a stage where you need like the quiet times? Because I find this very interesting, especially when I have like a music guest on the show,
Hmm.
about like the coping mechanism side of things when things do get a little bit overwhelming. Like, how do you kind of navigate that? Do you have certain like maybe songs, albums, or even like yoga? Like, is there anything like that that you kind of lean towards if you do need to kind of take some time out?
I think when things are at their normal pace, I get what I need just from my lifestyle, really. Whether it
Mm,
be like in the morning after I take the kids to school, I love the walk back from school. It's only about 15-20 minutes, but it just gives me a chance just to sort of get my head in order and think about what I want to get on with and think of some ideas. And yeah, that's really useful. Um, and then I think just the casual stuff, it's not necessarily about the gig, but it can be about the traveling there or the bit where I'm hanging out with the other musicians before we go on stage and all that stuff. I really take a lot from that. And that's actually something I didn't quite appreciate or recognize until it
yeah.
all stopped for a couple of years. So during lockdown, I did find it quite tricky because I realized that a lot of my headspace, I don't have a room in the house that's mine. Richard has a studio, which I use sometimes, but it's definitely not my studio.
Yeah.
It's got his equipment in it, and that's his space. So I did suddenly think, oh golly, I haven't given myself anywhere. Um, so I had to kind of find other ways to do it. And actually, it's like some of the stuff I enjoy doing that gives me a bit of a. I've got quite a busy mind, so I quite like doing things that are like I don't know, like puzzles or Lego or stuff like that, like
Oh
something where
my
I'm
God, Sophie,
kind of engaged in
Lego.
a task. Yeah. So I did a massive Lego struck like build during lockdown, huge one. And that really helped. That was my thing. I'd do that in the evening when the kids we're in bed or when it was quiet, I just go and sit and do like it need only be like 20 minutes, half an hour. That would be great. That would just make me feel settled again, really.
It's literally one of my, other than music, Lego is my
Really?
their coping mechanism. I haven't got any on my desk. I'm in the process of moving it. But you know, when normal people, not normal people, but people have like pictures of their families or vases around their house. I've
Yeah.
got random Lego sets. I've got like
Oh, cool.
Hogwarts. I've got the set of Friends. I've got.
Oh, the Friends one's really good, isn't it?
I
I
just,
bought
I
that
just,
for people.
oh, it's so good. I
Yeah,
just love how in that moment, like you're not focusing or concentrating on anything else, just putting these
exactly.
little bricks together.
I think it's they call it flow, don't they? It's like a when engaged in a task that has a definite shape, but you're not. It's not taxing, so you're free to kind of let your mind wander. And if I've ever got things that are bothering me or stuff I need to sort, that's often when I'll do it. Or lyrics I can't think of as well, actually, because it's like it takes the pressure off. You're going to achieve the thing you're achieving anyway, so you're allowed permission for your thoughts just to come and go. And I find it a really good tonic, definitely. Yes. So I'm like you, yeah. I enjoy that as well.
Become best friends. Love
Yeah,
that.
the Lego club.
With like the creativity, and you were saying there like about like when it comes to like lyrics and stuff like that, like I want, especially when I have like a music guest on it, like I imagine being a mom, obviously your children inspire you on a daily basis, but what like keeps kind of Sophie going? Like what keeps the fire burning? Because like you said, like it's been like 20 years but with like Murder on the Dance Floor. Like how do you keep going basically?
Well, firstly, I don't think it's that long, really. You get people with way, way longer careers than that, don't you? But also, I think fundamentally, I just really, really love it, and I always have, and that's never diminished. And in some ways, it's kind of only increased. And I love what I do. I love making music. There's very little aspects of my job that I find tedious. Most of it I find really engaging. So the songwriting is really good fun. So I've just finishing off another album with a guy called Ed Harcourt, and
Amazing.
this is our third album together, and we get on really well, and it's fun. And writing a song it's a really exciting experience because you're like, oh, what's gonna emerge today, um, and then recording it, and then at the moment I'm just mixing it, the new album that is, and the touring. I actually just really like all those things. They're really nice. So I think if you're excited about what's out there, you've got to almost have a sort of like slightly childish feeling like the best is yet to come. I
Yeah.
think I do meet musicians who are a little bit more cynical or not quite as in love with it. And I think you can't avoid it if that's how you feel, but I feel very glad that's not me. I think that must be such a shame because there's so much fun in it. There's so much pleasure. It's great.
Honestly, it's really refreshing to hear. Does the like the inspiration come from like random things? So imagine, because obviously with you having such a creative house, like man, I mean the
You mean for
disco ball must
songs?
have, yeah, like the disco ball must have like sparked something.
Well, actually, I kind of going about quite a lot, really. I mean, I started off singing in an indie band when I was a teenager, and that was my first record deal. And then so I kind of went from indie to dance to pop, and I've sort of spun around all over the place, really. And I tend to go in different directions. So my fourth album was really, really dancey. It's one called Make a Scene.
Yeah.
And then after that, I did a folk album called Wonderlust that was no dance, no disco. And then after that, I did Familia, which kind of had a bit more synth and a bit more dancey stuff in there. And then from there, I did an orchestral record. I kind of bounce around. So my next album is not very, it's got some pop sensibilities, but it's not a disco record because I've kind of been gorging on that. So
Yeah.
I kind of tend to do something full pelt and then run in the opposite direction. And yeah, I'm a bit of a pinball, I think.
That's like surely that's like the best way to be, because then it's kind of keeping you going as well. Like, and it's like it's not, so obviously with music you do tend to hear like a lot of the same thing. So I imagine having that freedom is very kind of like, actually no, I don't want to do this go now. I'm going to go in this route.
I think you just have to go with your gut with all this stuff as well. Like if you've got a sound and you're stuck with that, then go for it. Like if that makes you happy. But for me, especially after when I did Wonderlust,
Mm.
that was like a really significant moment for me because I'd been going in such a direction with pop and dance, and then I did this record, and I was like, I don't know if anyone wants this from me, but this is what I feel like I need to do next. And then actually it was really well received, and it kind of I think of all the things that have gone well in my career, that's the one that meant the most to me, actually, because it was like, wow, I really went with my gut. I worked with really good people. There were a lot of people outside of that circle that weren't sure if I was doing the right thing, but I was like, I just have to do this. And it so when it worked out, it was just the loveliest feeling. It was like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure in your record collection you've got things that are really diverse, and you can't second guess what people want from you. It doesn't really work like that. And the chances are, the moment you start making music thinking, I think this is the sort of song people expect me to do, but I'm not really that into it, you can guarantee that'll be the one that doesn't work out, and then you'll always feel a bit weird about it. So you've got to do what makes you happy, really.
No, and I think, Gervais, you can add that to every aspect of your life as well.
Yeah,
You
that's
have
true.
got to trust your gut. You have got to follow your heart.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, and once you do it, people actually are a lot more. They're not thinking about it as hard as you are, and they're also a lot more open than you think they are.
Just inspirational Monday morning conversation of this to really set the
I'm
standard for the
probably
rest
going
of
to
the week
achieve
now.
nothing after this, by the way.
I was going to be exactly the same. As soon
That
as this
to-do list
camera
is
and
gonna just
microphone's
lie
off.
fallow. Yeah. Theoretically, though, great. Talking the talk, no problem. Walking the walk.
Yeah. Tired. It's Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to kind of like ask, when it comes to like the food aspect. Obviously, you've got the cookbook now, and it's is food, especially with you having like the big family, like, is that a huge part of like life as well for you guys?
Yeah, and it always has been. Richard and I have always loved making ourselves things to eat and cooking for other people and cooking for their family. And I think we we started our relationship like that, but also once we spoke about it more, we realized both of us had been really similar growing up as well, that we'd always enjoyed cooking and learned first of all by being in the kitchen at home and watching what our folks were up to, but then cooking for ourselves as soon as we could. And I think it's a real shared passion, really, and it's not just from us, it's from our families. Like, on my side of things, my mum, my brother, my sister, they're all into cooking, and our family WhatsApp is full of pictures of like whatever we've been making ourselves. And yeah, so yeah, being asked to do the cookbook was like, we actually had wanted to do one for years, so this was a really exciting thing. Yeah, it's lovely.
I need to try with those marmalade gins.
Oh yeah,
Every time like I hear about it, I'm like,
yeah, that's good. Yeah, so there's a cocktail called a Murder on the Dance Floor that's got the pink marmalade gin, and cranberry. It's basically a little bit like a cosmopolitan, but like a gin twist and a little bit of lavender, and it's really tasty.
I literally, your house must be the most creative house in Britain. It's
Creative and loads of alcohol.
yeah, what more could you want?
Yeah.
This is exactly how my Monday's going to go now.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to ask, as well, like, a lot of your songs are, as soon as you hear like the start of Murder on the Dance Floor or Groove Jet, especially, like, it's one of my mom's favorite songs, which then, because we grew up around it, then it became like one of my songs. So it's like one of those, when I hear it, it's like straight to the dance floor. I imagine, I mean, I can't imagine it taking a lot, but what song kind of needs to be playing to get Sophie on the dance floor?
Well, I go on the dance floor pretty easly, to be fair.
I was going to say, this is probably the worst question I could have asked.
It's not like, oh God. But I think, I mean, there's some songs that, like, for me, like one of the ultimate is probably like Thelma Houston's version of Don't Leave Me This Way, just because it's really slinky.
Yes.
And then gets you really going by the end. But there's tons of songs I would dance to. I dance to a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty easy to get me boogieing. Yeah.
Speaking of boogieing, your version of Yes, I Can Boogie.
Thanks.
Literally.
Such a great tune.
Absolute belter. And I love the fact it's like, because you have one of those voices that's like, regardless of what track it is, you know who's singing it because of your voice. And it was like, when I heard it for the first time, I was like, why was this not like blown up? What this literally is like, I don't want to, can I say it's better than the original? Can I say that?
Nah, the original's great. I love their voices. But I think, it's nice to pay homage to those songs. And I actually first did that as whenever I used to do GAY before. I still perform at GAY occasionally, but when I used to do them, I'd always put in a cover, like one just for that night. So that was one of those. But I still bring it out sometimes and do it. Like we did it on the tour sometimes. Actually, we played it a couple. I had a big wheel, like a wheel of fortune, I'd spin, and it was one of the songs on there. So sometimes it came up.
That is absolutely brilliant.
It's so slinky. It's a good song. It's pretty effortless.
On the flip side of that, is there songs that, like, when you are kind of a little bit like overwhelmed or there's a lot going on, is there any songs or albums that you kind of lean to that kind of not necessarily ground you, but like kind of give you that kind of breathing space? Like the songs that make you cry, basically.
I don't know. I don't know if that's, to be honest, if I'm feeling a bit down, I tend not to lean into it with music. I'll probably go for something really upbeat because Richard's much better at that. Like if he's feeling a bit like, introspective or melancholy or blue about something, he'll put on music that reflects that. Whereas for me, I kind of go the other way because I find sometimes a sad song when I'm sad can just be heartbreaking. It's almost too much for me, I think. So I probably will go the other way and try and like give my brain lots of like joyful, upbeat spaces rather than sinking down further. I think that's how I've always dealt with things, actually. Yeah. But there's definitely music that gives me that feel where you can feel like you can sort of touch the sides of it. It's probably more classical music for me, actually. I think if there's a singer, it's kind of a bit, it almost keeps the theatre going. But if it's like classical music can make me cry. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of like pulls on the heartstrings a bit more, doesn't it? It's a bit more like cinematic.
Yeah, exactly. And also there's a sort of tenderness in there. Maybe because I'm a singer as well. When there's a singer, I can get kind of into that headspace a little bit. Whereas with the classical, there's like nowhere to hide almost.
Yeah. Is that why you kind of did the whole orchestral versions of the songs? Like what?
Well,
what
I did the
inspired
orchestral versions for fun, really. I mean, and hopefully what I did is not make them more melancholy, but just maybe bring out a different color. So some of them are much lighter or kind of more they bring out a charm sometimes in the songs because it's unexpected. But I'd done a charity gig with a friend of mine called Amy. She's a cellist, and she'd done an arrangement of Groove Jet for this charity evening, and I just loved how it changed the song, like where it placed the emphasis in a different place. So that was sort of the starting point. Really, I said to her, I think I want to do a greatest hits, but I would love to do them all orchestral. And so she did all the arrangements for me, and I just thought it brought out different things in the songs. Definitely. And that's really what I was looking for, I think, to breathe new life into songs I'd sung so many times, and suddenly you had to think about it again, like, oh, how do I actually want this to go? It's quite nice to do that sometimes.
No, definitely. I think like you said, it does give it like a whole new meaning. It brings out like a whole different side of it that you didn't really know that you needed.
Yeah, or like a bit of drama or like a bit of intensity. It was really, I love touring as well. Touring it was absolutely incredible. Probably one of my favorite tours I've ever done.
So with, obviously you've mentioned now about the new album, like when can we expect it? Is that
we're just
sooner rather than later?
So yeah, in the spring. Yeah.
Amazing. And then obviously you've said it, you love touring. We expect another tour.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did a tour back in like a UK tour in spring this year, and absolutely loved it. And since I've just been more festivals, but yeah, there'll probably be a couple of tours next year, I think. Yes.
I love that. Honestly, you've been an absolute dream to waffle with. Honestly,
same here. Thank you. Thanks for talking to me.
Anytime. But honestly, this is gonna be my season opener. So what a guest to help me kickstart my new season.
Hey, oh, thank you so much. Well, it's lovely chatting to you. And now I've got a conundrum if I do my to-do list, or I should go and do some Lego.
No, because now I'm in that difficult. I don't know what to do now. No. I've got like 2-3 boxes that are still like under the stairs, like in a cupboard, that I'm like screaming at me now.
Yeah. I've got a couple of things left as well. Also, the kids have got a few projects I promised I'd fix, so maybe I can put that on my to-do list, and then it's all tied in.
I love it when there's like kids projects that slowly become like the parents projects.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I'm like the
so
Lego
passionate.
builder in the house. So if there's something that keeps breaking or a bit they find a bit tricky, it's either me or my eldest Sonny. He's really good with it too. We're like the master builders, the resident master builders.
Love that. Oh, you have been an absolute dream. I love you even more now.
Oh, lovely talking to you, Ted. Thank you so much.
Yes.